JSheetz Artwork.
Hello, and today we're going to be going over the Rotring Isograph and which papers are the ones that I prefer to draw in with this technical pen. Now, the sketchbooks that I have here is the Moleskine, the Pentalic sketchbook, the Borden and Riley Paris paper for pens, and this one here is an example of one that I do not use for Rotring Isographs. So, what is the type of paper that is recommended? Now, you want a paper for this pen that is smooth, and the reason being is that this pen has a very fine tip on it, which when you're drawing with it, you don't want to draw on any surface that is rough or any surface that is meant for something such as pastel, or something that is meant for pencils or chalk or any of that. You want a smooth surface so that when you're drawing, you get a very smooth, crisp line that glides across the paper. You don't have to worry about the fibers of the paper catching the tip of the pen, and you don't have to worry about bending the nib of the pen, because these pens do have fairly fragile tips to them. I mean, you can draw with these for a long time and they're just not going to wear out as long as you take care of them, clean them, and make sure you're drawing on the proper paper for this technical pen. So let's go ahead and go over some of the ones that I recommend using with this technical pen. Now, the one that I have here is a .35, which is the one that I prefer to use most of the time. So the first sketchbook that I have here is a small sketchbook of the Moleskine brand. And what I like about this paper is that it's really smooth, and the paper isn't really thick, but it's a very smooth paper. And so when I'm drawing with this in the sketchbook, I don't have to worry about the pen catching on anything, or worry about having any issues with the ink not wanting to flow. Generally, that's going to happen if you are using a sketchbook that is too rough of a paper, such as this pastel paper here. And this is for pastel, so I mean, if you buy the paper, it's going to tell you on it what it's recommended for. So, and then by the way, this sketchbook is maybe, what is that, 3 by 4 inches or something like that, maybe 3 by 5. And the other one is another Moleskine sketchbook, and this one is a bit larger than the other one, and I do a lot of doodles in this. I'm almost all the way done with this sketchbook, but we've still got a little bit more to go until it's done. The next sketchbook that I have here is the Borden and Riley. Now, this is the Paris paper for pens, a smooth, bleed-proof, all-purpose paper, 108 pound weight, 9 by 12 inches, and this is 40 sheets. Now, this has very smooth paper, and the paper in this is much thicker than the paper that you're going to get with this Moleskine sketchbook. I would say the Moleskine sketchbook is maybe 7 inches by 10, something like that. But this sketchbook has much thicker paper, and it's a heavier weight of paper, and the color of it isn't a color that's like the Moleskine. The Moleskine, as you notice, has a slightly creamy brownish tint to it, maybe like an ivory or something, like a creamy color, whereas this is just a plain white, nothing else. So if you want a sketchbook that is only white paper, it's not off color or anything, kind of like what you see here with this, then I recommend using this. Now, this sketchbook will actually cost more. I think, if I remember correctly, it costs more than a Moleskine sketchbook, but if you want drawings that are going to be archival and one that you're going to scan and save or maybe put in a frame or something, then this is going to be probably one of the best papers that you can get for doing any drawings, doodles, portraits, or anything with a technical pen. Now, these are good for fountain pens as well. So technical pens and fountain pens, But this is the type of paper that I do a lot of drawings in. If they're very detailed, that I spend a lot of time working on them, then I'll put them in this one. The next sketchbook that I have here isn't really one that has smooth paper. So if you're using a Rotring Isograph that is smaller than this, I do not recommend it. Make sure you use something that is a 0.35 and larger, such as the 0.35, 0.4, 0.5, 0.6, and onwards. In this sketchbook, I'll show you a couple here if I can find it. I know I've got a couple here. Here's one. Now this one here was done with the 0.35 Rotring Isograph. And as you can see, you get a lot of contrast on the paper with these type of pens because of the ink, the way it flows, and it's a really dark ink. Now, if I was to draw on this with the 0.25, now that pen's going to have a harder time drawing on the surface because the texture of the surface of the sketchbook is slightly rough, just a little bit, because it can be used for pencils as well. So because of that, this is more of an all-around type of sketchbook. But I have been able to draw on this with the Rotring Isograph, and due to that and the convenience of it, I'm able to get more doodles done and create all kinds of abstract designs and whatnot. Now, as I said, I wouldn't use a 0.25 or a Rotring 0.18 in this sketchbook, and this is even smaller. And the reason, as I said, is that they catch on the paper, and you're gonna have a bad time if you try to draw with these. So make sure you use a 0.35 and larger. And my next sketchbook that I have here, you find the rubber band for this. This keeps the sketchbook held together and closed. Because whenever I carry it somewhere if I'm drawing, I like to be able to just have this rubber band here, and then I can take, if I want to, put a pen there or something, and it holds it. Maybe I can do a review of that and talk about it. But anyways, the next one that I have, and that is the Pastel. These are papers that I do not recommend using. Anything that has a rough surface, I can get in closer here and show you. It might be hard to see. You might be able to see the texture there, but there's a little bit of a texture to it. Well, in the camera it's hard to see it, but there's a lot of texture to this paper, and that's because it's for pastel. Or any sketchbook that would be something for pastel, chalk, graphite, or charcoal. Anything that is a type of drawing medium that requires you to rub the medium onto the surface, which would cause you to have, like for example, a pencil. The physical action of rubbing the pencil against the paper causes the graphite to go onto the paper. So when you're getting a type of paper or a sketchbook for a Rotring Isograph, what you want to think about is a type of surface that is going to be bad for a pencil to draw in. Something that is not going to work good for a pencil will work even better for a pen like this, the Rotring Isograph. Now, I do have other sketchbooks, such as an off-brand, which is like this, like a Daler Rowney, but that actually has a rougher surface than this, and I don't recommend drawing in a Daler Rowney. This is probably the roughest surface I would recommend drawing in, which is the Bentalic sketchbook. Anything rougher than this and you could damage the pen. So the sketchbooks that I recommend the most would be the Moleskine Kyer. There's different kinds, but pretty much all the Moleskine sketchbooks that are this type of paper, they're all very smooth, and the pages are pretty thin, but they do really good with Rotring Isographs. And the other paper that I really like using is the Paris paper for pens, the Borden and Riley. And you can pick up these online. There's different sites you can get them, and they're not too expensive. I mean, for what you're getting in the quality. And the Moleskine Kyers, you can get these in packs of 3 or in bulk amounts and save even more money. But yes, these are the ones that I recommend that you use for drawing in. And make sure that if you have any questions to go ahead and ask me down below, and I'll reply to them as soon as I can. But hope you all enjoyed that. Let me know if you got any questions or anything about the Rotring Isograph or any of these sketchbooks that I have, or anything else, or something you want me to draw, and I can go over it. But until then, thank you for watching. Give us a like if you want to, share it with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching, and have fun out there with all your doodling and everything else. I really want to do a drawing right now. I think I'm going to do a drawing in my moleskin sketchbook. Another intricate abstract doodle, as always.